What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a great Friday evening. Tonight's guest is none other than Jason Schafer. I met Jason through the breeding community, more specifically, Talking Birds, the club. Um, he is a drug and alcohol counselor, and he's going to be coming on the podcast to talk about his story and also, some things that you should or should not do during the Christmas holiday. But first, let's hit that intro. Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Shape Podcast. You know me. You've been watching me for over a year now. My name is Kyle Waller. Of course, I'm your host. Sometimes my wife's your host. It just depends. Maybe one of these days we'll have her back on. But welcome to another exciting episode. It is Friday, which means one thing. My wife turned 45 yesterday. All right. So happy birthday to her. She's going to kill me when she sees this, but that's all right. She can. You know, she's just, she can also hear me because this is a recorded episode, by the way. Because my guest has some things going on Friday night. So we decided to sit down and record this episode. So I hope you all enjoy it. But before I bring Jason on, of course, like every week, I just want to mention this right here. Right? Shape the Podcast and Lucky Boy Beard Company joined forces to create a beard oil. Right? So this isn't just any specific beard oil, but it also benefits mental health. Right? You can go over to Lucky Boy Beard Company, buy a bottle of Hold Fast, right? And $5 from each bottle will go to a mental health-based charity, which we do have that mental health-based charity picked out. And in 2 weeks, they're actually going to be coming on to the podcast and talking about their charity and what they do. So go over there to Lucky Boy Beard Co., get a bottle of Hold Fast. And like I said, $5 will go to a mental health-based charity. And for you guys out there who like balm, they also have the scent in a balm. So, and again, same premises. $5 of that will also go to mental health-based charity. So, big thanks to Lucky Boy Beard Co., Jason and Doc, great fellas. But all right, enough ramblings. How about I bring on my guest tonight, Mr. Jason Schafer? What's up, sir? Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, welcome. So, how's the weather in your neck of the woods?
It's cold.
Is it?
It's really really cold. Yeah, I live
Now,
up in Minnesota, and
yeah.
yeah, I had to shovel my driveway after getting home from work today, and it's
Oh,
about
so you had snow.
we got some snow the past day or so, and when I got up this morning, it was maybe about 15 degrees out, and
Yeah.
warmed up to about 20 today.
See,
So
well, let's see. I went to work today and it was 19, right? And I think it warmed up to 25, but no snow. So you can
yep,
keep that. You can keep
yeah.
that like that.
Yeah,
But
last winter was a nice little treat for us up here in Minnesota, but don't think this one's going to be so kind.
no. Oh, so you had a mild winter then? Is that what you're
Yeah, we
saying?
had a real mild, probably one of the mildest ever,
Wow,
the mildest I ever remember.
wow. Well, that's crazy. Well, hey man, I know you from the breeding community. I've seen you around at a couple events. Especially helping out Talking Birds, the club, at nationals and things of that nature. But a lot of my viewers don't know who you are. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jason Schafer. I live up in Minnesota, born and raised. Yeah, I am part of the bearding community. Uh, I am a board member for the Minnesota Beard and Mustache Coalition. I am just finishing serving up my 2-year term with the North American Charitable Beard and Mustache Alliance, where I was a VP helping out that group. And, I travel all over the country and world doing beard and mustache competitions and doing some of the fun freestyle
Yeah.
competitions where I shape my beard. But kind of funny is, like you had mentioned earlier, I am a licensed alcohol and drug counselor in the state of Minnesota, and I always feel that my having my big gray beard actually gives a bit of gravitas, to my work, and it kind of has builds in that, like, wise, person that can help build some of that trust. So
So how
I
did
think
you?
the beard helps.
So speaking of that, like how did you get into that? Like what made you say, hey, I'm gonna help out people with dealing with addiction?
Yeah, it was a little bit more by happenstance. I was actually, so I'm a person of faith.
All right.
So I was looking for uh, youth ministry type jobs, and basically, doing some interviews, and it just wasn't feeling quite right. You know, interviewing with these suburban churches that
Yeah.
you know most of the families have basically everything they could need, and so I'm like, kind of starting to feel like, well, I need to work with somebody, felt called to work with people with more discernible needs. And,
Hmm.
I happened upon an ad for where I work, Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge, which is a faith based drug and alcohol treatment center up here in Minnesota. And uh, applied, didn't know a ton about it. And um, yeah, within 2 weeks, I was working there, and I've been there about 18 and a half years now, and
Wow.
changed roles a number of different times. About 10 years ago, I went back and got my uh, certificate to do drug and alcohol counseling, and been doing that ever since.
So you probably have seen your fair share of addicts and people who are hurting and down and despair probably come through then, huh?
Yeah, seen a lot of hurt, and that's why one of the things I wanted to come and be on this podcast is because with addiction, uh, there's so much what we call comorbidity with mental health issues
Hmm.
that it is such a high percentage of people that have addiction that also have mental health issues. So they usually go hand in hand. So um, it's been cool to see our company really uh, grow forward these past 10 years or so in bringing more mental health um, awareness to our clinical addiction as well, because it's without that, it's definitely um, pushing pushing hard against something that you don't have the right tools for sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but you were saying that it's faith based, right?
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that right there. So I am, well, I'm not per se, but I went through AA and I went through NA.
yeah,
But like a lot of that at that particular time when I was going through that, the whole faith thing kind of scares people,
yeah,
But like I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what you have faith in, as long as you believe in something good, you know,
yeah,
that can help you change. Of course, you know, um, I was taught growing up because I was also raised in a Christian home, you know. Um, I believe in some type of faith now. Heck, I was once a part of the children's ministry and a part of the youth ministry, But
hmm,
I feel like my purpose has changed and has brought me to where I am. But
yeah.
people should never be afraid because something has the word faith in it, you know. And
Exactly.
I'm sure that you've seen that. You've seen a lot of people are like, oh, whoa, 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 you're you're Christian based. I don't think I can handle that. But once you put aside that and you really get down to the root of the problem, or or what's going on, then that changes things. Then the whole faith thing, you know, it it's no longer in the forefront. It's in the back of their mind, you know. So
Yeah, and the cool thing about where we're at is, we the department I'm working at, like, is, our long-term thing. So it's about a year-long program, and
mm,
it's specifically designed for faith, and then we add in the clinical alongside that. But really, the curriculum comes from biblical teachings, but anybody of any faith can go through the program. We have our, kind of more traditional 30, 60, 90-day treatment,
hmm
residential treatment that, they can have a little bit or no or a lot of faith, kind of depending on where they're at,
yeah,
uh, included in their treatment planning. So we don't discriminate against anyone for any reason, which is super cool because ultimately we want to help people, and that's some of the history of AA is it actually started out as a Christian group. They were
hmm
almost going to call it the James Group, but
yep,
then they called it the Oxford Group, because a lot of what we know as AA comes from the Bible book of James. But the Bill W. and Dr. Bob wanted to make sure that anybody that was struggling had access to it and there weren't any barriers. So,
yeah,
they made it not directly, tied into that, so that whoever needed help could get help, which is, you know, I think that's honestly, that's a very Christian thing to do, is meet people
yep.
where they're at, and, not
Well, that
force it on
and
anyone. And
you never want to push somebody away. You know, if
exactly.
if somebody is hurting, you know, and they have a desire to get the help they want, we as humans never want to push those people away. That one thing we want to
Yeah.
do is welcome them, with welcome arms. And I know, like for me, when I went through AA, it was it was a period in my life where I needed it. You know what I'm saying? And I learned a lot of things, and it helped me. You know, it helped me kind of mold me to be the person I am today. But it also made me realize that, okay, I've been so closed off to religion that it's kind of I kind of had to put that aside.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, yeah, you're right. It was that whole premises was a biblical thing, and that's why they hold them in churches a lot, because
Yeah.
that's where it started in the basement, of a church. So that's why most of your AA meetings and your NA meetings are held within churches. But I can tell you right now, to anybody out there, if you go to one of these meetings and you're open to it, and you're open to the changes, and you do the steps and the work that it takes to change it, you can do it. Now, I can sit here today and you know be able to say, yes, I drink. You know, um, I'm not a daily drinker. I'm not a weekly drinker. I'm barely even a month drinker. But I do socialize,
Hmm.
um, and do enjoy a little drink every now and then. But that's beside the point. It's all about where you are in your your journey, so to speak. It's all about how strong you are within yourself, and within your own journey. Because a lot of people out there, as we've seen, have not made it. Um,
Yeah.
it's been very hard for those. So did you ever have like any type of addiction, or where did you always just have this whole thing of I have to help somebody?
Yeah, it was more about helping others.
Uh,
I never struggled with addiction myself. There I've had some family members, um, that struggled with addiction.
uh,
I have an uncle that, he's passed now, but he battled his demons.
yeah,
For me, I kind of relate with, like, hey, we all have issues. Some of it just shows up as addiction. Some of it shows up
uh,
as, you know, uh, working too much, some of, codependency, all those are kind of issues that take us away from our center, our spirituality, our emotional well-being, our physical well-being. It's just addiction tends to have, in a lot of ways, some bigger consequences
Yeah.
that show up and
Uh,
that are very visible to the public. My struggles growing up were mostly emotional due to the fact that my mother passed away when I was young. I was
mm,
12 when she passed away. So kind of dealing with the stress and that of that, is kind of how I relate. It's like, hey, we all go through stuff.
yeah.
Addiction usually is a solution to another problem.
Of course. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Because
a
you're just
solution that,
you're
eventually,
putting
yeah,
a band-aid, so to speak, over that problem, but by creating another problem. You know,
exactly,
and
exactly.
that's like I've had to deal with that. Um, but I've also created my chaos.
Hmm.
But at the time that I created my chaos, I was blaming others for the chaos that I created. You
Yeah,
know, um, like I was dating a girl at one period in my time who was in addiction. That's really what got me into drugs and alcohol was this woman. You know, um, she got sober and I got sober, but I got sober for the wrong reason. You know, I
yeah,
uh, I made the changes because this woman who I was dating made the changes, and I'm like, well, if I
yeah,
don't change, then I'm going to be out of my butt. I'm going to be homeless. Needless
yeah,
to say, I learned, but I also grew a lot in that. And really, if it wasn't for her uh, making those changes that she's made, and if it wasn't for a good support group that I have now, I can tell you I wouldn't be here. You know, I would
yeah,
be I would either be in jail or homeless or 6 feet under. You know, so it's always great to have a good support group around us. So somebody we can lean to and talk to. And I mean, with
yeah,
you, you're dealing with that on a daily basis, and that has to. I mean, of course, to be a strong person, it doesn't take as big as a mental toll on you, but it has to sometimes just get you. Like,
yeah. The secondary trauma can be intense. Luckily, I have the personality type where I'm more of a thinker than a feeler, so that
uh,
definitely helps keep me grounded. But one thing you said, kind of having that support group, is, you know, uh, a saying that I like to tell my clients is, sobriety is not the opposite of addiction. Community is.
huh,
And the reality is having deep and really fulfilling community is one of the best things that and best preventative measures that you can have. There's actually this study done, I don't remember how long ago, it's called Rat Park,
mm-hmm,
where, these rats were actually fed water laced with cocaine. And when they were in isolation, they would just drink it until they basically died.
yeah,
But when they were put in a community of other rats, they didn't even touch it because they had the community around them, the things that they needed to, you know, actually live a fulfilling life,
mm.
that it really made a huge difference with them.
Well, yeah, and that's true because if you're talking about community, it's also about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah,
There are many different communities out there, as we've seen, you know,
yeah,
um, and I can tell you, I've been in the bearding community since 2014, and from 2014 to 2024, almost 2025, the changes in that community, going from a party lifestyle to more of a family environment.
hmm,
um, it's been amazing. Now
yeah,
there's been a lot of people that have shunned that, you know, but for me, um, I've welcomed it. I mean, sometimes it's hard to be like, yeah, no, but I can tell you, back when I came in the bearding community, I'm not the Kyle I am today. You know,
Yeah.
and it's all because I made those changes, and I'm more. I feel like I'm more respected now in the community. And that's what it's all about. It's once you find your community and you find those that accept you for who you are, good and bad, you know, um, and that you can lean on, then they help you grow. You know,
That's the biggest thing, is finding people who accept you for who you are, good and bad, because people are just people. We have
yeah,
good, we have bad. And when we find those people around us that we can actually like accept us, failures and successes and all, you know, that's an amazing thing. And that sort of vulnerability is what can actually lead us forward in life, outside of just, being sober or being whatever. It just makes us better people because we're
yeah,
able to actually interact in a meaningful way. Um, so that being able to be vulnerable with people that are healthy and accepting, and that, to be honest, won't put up with your crap and won't enable you,
yeah,
but still accept you, is
yeah.
it's amazing.
I still have. There are people out there that will uh, still call me out sometimes if I'm starting to act like the old Kyle. You
Yeah,
know, because I used to be really opinionated and really snarky, and that there are a couple people out there that will be like, "Hey, you're starting to be like the guy that you used to be."
yeah,
And it's good when those people call me out because I
yeah,
respect those individuals. But like we're talking about community, and it is Christmas time. The holiday season is here, and so usually around the holiday season, it's the hardest time for anybody that's dealing with
yeah,
addiction. Let's let's touch on that because I really wanted to touch on that. And you did send me some awesome things earlier about that. Like I feel like, well, especially alcohol use. Alcohol
yeah,
use during the holiday season is rampant. Um, because that's when people really want to. I wouldn't say mask their issues, but a lot of people have dealt with loss throughout the years, and the holidays are bad for them. And or they just don't know if they'll be able to buy their kids or their loved ones the gifts that they want. Let's talk about that and some things that people can do to you know uh, help them out throughout the holidays.
yeah. And first, I want to start out just by reminding us that, you know, not everyone, the holidays tend to be more of a family thing, and not everyone's family is a healthy family. And
Yeah,
so, even if we're doing well in our personal life, when we go back into our family systems, it actually puts us back almost like we were growing up, and our
yeah,
family members will try to treat us and have us act in the way that we used to act. And so that in and of itself can be really difficult, which is why just understanding that and realizing that, what, they're going to do their thing. The family system is still that family system in many
hmm,
cases. Um, if it wasn't a healthy one, um, if we're the only healthy one in that family system, we just have to be aware of that. And you know the thing is sometimes it's difficult enough where maybe one of the big tips is, you know come late and leave early.
hmm,
you know you don't need to always be there the whole day. Sometimes it's just putting in an appearance,
yep,
if the family is that damaged.
yeah,
uh, you know a lot of times later in the evening, where a lot more of the drinking or using or smoking or whatever happens that you don't want to be a part of, that'll happen a little bit later. You can kind of tell when things are moving towards that. It's like, oh, I've I've seen the people I needed to see,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bounce. The other thing is, sometimes, especially if you're early in recovery, taking a friend or a sponsor with,
Yeah.
you, having a guest, maybe it's a girlfriend or boyfriend that's supportive, somebody that can remind you and give a little bit of accountability um, with that. So there's all sorts of things, of course,
It's funny.
yeah, go
You
ahead.
you you touched on you know uh, going late, going later, but leaving earlier. I'm the type where I will go early and I will leave early
Yeah, or
because
that.
like it's like I don't know, like I tend to get once people start to get really intoxicated, like
Yeah,
my anxiety goes through the roof, you know, like and I'm not a big drinker, like I said, but I will have a cocktail or so. But like for me, it's like I don't think that you have to drink to have fun, you know.
yeah,
And so once I start to see that, I'm like, yeah, or I'll look at my wife and I can tell that she's ready to go,
yeah.
and so yeah, so like literally we are the come early, leave early people. All right? And it's hey, no shame. If you want to go there and you want to be like
Yeah.
the second or third person to show up, do that. But yeah, I mean, I do think that it is definitely if you're dealing with any type of addiction, a um, have a game plan. You know what I'm saying? Like most
Yeah.
of you have a game plan, um, and know that your recovery is way stronger than picking up a glass or doing a line of cocaine, or anything of that matter, you know. So yeah, I mean that's a great point right there, you know.
And speaking of your glass, if you're just holding some sort of glass, some sort of can, whatever, people don't really care what you have in it.
Yeah,
It's like if you want to feel included, just keep it filled with Coca-Cola or ginger ale or
yeah,
whatever. And no one's gonna, you know, care. It's like, oh, here, let me get you. It's like, nope, I got a drink, and it cuts off so many temptations,
yeah,
so many offers, and a lot of this we talk about going home to families, but the holiday times is there's a lot of holiday parties, whether they be work parties,
mm-hmm,
friend parties, you know, you name it. There's all sorts of stuff, and these things are great to keep in mind for all of those. What's in your cup only matters to you, and
yep,
a great tip is if it's somewhere where there's a bartender, just let them know early on. It's like, hey, I'm sober. I do
yeah,
not drink.
yeah, get a
You know,
mocktail.
yeah, yep. Hook me up with mocktails. And
Uh,
every bartender that I've ever met is so happy to do that.
yeah,
And a lot of times they're like, if you're the sober person around there, you're either going to get charged way less for what they're giving you, or
yeah,
sometimes not at all, just
yeah,
because.
because they would rather see you leave their establishment and be able to get behind the wheel and drive than I mean, because there's laws out there that will hurt the establishments,
Yeah,
but like for those people who let's say that that they are recovering alcoholics, that there are people out there that drink non-alcoholic beers,
yeah,
not non-alcoholic, you know, you still have the taste, and I know for some of you out there that might not be the thing,
yeah,
because some people get that taste and then they want more, but that might be another option is
yeah,
look for that. But yeah, and that's all it is. That's all. When you go to these parties and things of that nature, if if you don't have a glass in your hand of whatever it is, then people want to try to include you. So yeah,
yeah,
have that glass of water that may or may not look like vodka.
yeah.
Like
And
it's
honestly,
it's okay to do that.
there's so many places that are catering more and more to the sober lifestyle,
Yeah,
that a lot of places have honestly already on their menu really killer mocktails.
yeah,
I just went out with some friends a couple weeks ago, and I got a really tasty mocktail, and it was so good. And sometimes, like, one of the best things is I went out, just me and a friend. This was a couple years ago, and went out to this kind of bar restaurant and got some appetizers. He had his old fashioned, and I'm like, well, I don't drink, but I kind of want to socialize and have something. And the bartender, I said, hey, be creative. I like ginger, and I like mint, and it gave him a couple of things that I really enjoy. And literally, he made me the best mocktail. And the way he put it in the system was like a soft drink.
Uh-huh.
So when I had a second one, when it came time to cash out after having two of those, it charged me for a single soft drink because soft drinks have free refills.
Yeah.
And so in their system,
Smart.
like, I paid, like, it, those were some of the best drinks I've ever had in my life. And they were mocktails, and they cost me what, $3, $4 for
Yeah.
both of them together.
I tell you,
It was amazing.
if I could find a mocktail out there that tastes as good as an old fashioned, then I would be a-okay, because I do like my bourbon. But being down here in Ohio, that's and near the Kentucky border, that's all you see. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do see a lot of that. A lot of these bars and restaurants now, because it seems like the younger generation, the 20
Yeah.
something year olds, and even the 30 something year olds, that they are enjoying more mocktails now than my generation ever has.
Yeah.
Which I think that's awesome. So, I mean, if anybody that's watching this right now is like, oh man, maybe I should try one of those, because you'll still be included, and you never know, it might taste better than what you normally drink. You know,
Yeah. And one of the cool things here is, like, a lot of people like going out to get, like, breweries, get craft beers. Like, we
that
have a kind of soda and candy shop near where I live that has literally hundreds of different types of craft sodas in bottles that you can go through. And so it's like you could still do some of the similar things,
yeah,
just do it in ways that don't include using.
yeah,
You-
no, I mean, and there's and the thing is, like, I want people to also realize that if you are at a, a party, or you're at an event and you do start to feel uncomfortable, phone a friend, you know,
Yeah.
or make your phone ring like somebody's calling you, and then have that as your excuse to leave. You
Yeah.
know,
Or have
and,
somebody give you a call at a certain time just
yep,
to check in on you. So here's my biggest kind of advice with that is, if you want to call somebody and you're not used to calling them at all, it's gonna feel like £1,000,000 to pick up that phone. But if
yeah,
you're in the habit of just calling somebody on a regular basis, checking in about the good, the bad, and just like that, having that community, whenever you're struggling, it's gonna make it so much easier to pick up that phone because it's already a habit that you have built in.
mm-hmm,
You're already used to to sharing the good, the bad.
yeah,
Uh, the vulnerability is, and safe vulnerability with safe people is one of those things that is actually the most healing and most, it's the place where most growth and innovation can come from. There's a wonderful author and researcher and speaker named Brene Brown, and she did this TED talk on vulnerability,
mm,
and it's so true, where she talks about, you know finding people that you can be vulnerable with is the birthplace of healing. It's the birthplace of acceptance. But unfortunately, so many people are vulnerable to the wrong people that
yes, yep. I
that
was I was
you
just about
know
to say that.
it
Uh,
it 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 reinforces their negativity about vulnerability
yep.
because it gets used against them.
Or it makes
So
them look weak.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and that's the thing. It's not, that type of vulnerability is not weakness.
yeah,
Like asking for help, being vulnerable, and asking for help is not a weakness. As a matter of fact, that's one of the strongest things anybody can ever do. You know,
Absolutely.
because of the simple fact, we all know that um, suicide during the holidays, the suicide rate is through the roof. You know, um, and it's all because of those people not reaching out. And putting themselves in vulnerable positions to get the help they need. You know. Um,
Yeah. At the end, remind me because I want to touch on that.
oh
Just
yeah,
as a point, maybe we could just do it right now
yeah.
because
Go ahead, man.
suicide is such a thing, and a lot of people don't know what to do if somebody asks them about it. Um, and reality is, if somebody's serious about it, any probing questions that we have aren't going to hurt anything.
Yeah,
It's not going to make things worse. Um, Honestly, it usually makes people feel better. So the reality is, if somebody's like that, we want to get specifics. Like, okay, what are you feeling? Are you feeling suicidal? You can ask people that directly.
yeah,
We want the most specifics. Like, okay, the more likely somebody is to actually follow through is the more specifics they have. Do you have a plan? Do you have a when? Do you have a where? Do you have a how?
yeah,
All of those things. And do you have access to those things? The more specific that they have, it's like, yeah, I have a rope. I'm thinking about doing it, after I leave the family, gathering, you know, um, the more specifics, the more, and every place has a suicide hotline.
hmm
Um, so so just kind of check it out what it is in your area.
yep.
And
I believe it is 988. I believe that is the
yeah,
national
yeah,
suicide hotline number. And of course, if anybody on here who's watching this episode when it does air, if you don't feel comfortable with calling that specific number, I mean, reach out to me, reach out to Jason.
yeah,
I can give you a slew of other people to reach out to because I'd rather see you, even if it's a struggle. I'd rather see you alive than 6 feet under. You know, so would everybody else. I mean, let's just be honest. You
yeah.
know, and so
And
that's
it's interesting too. One thing I want to mention is we're finding that there's more and more trauma that people are experiencing and being, kind of, you know, this world is not always a nice place, and
and that's the truth.
it's we're finding that there's more and more trauma, and especially young people are experiencing such high levels of trauma that it's leading to more suicides, it's leading to more addiction,
hmm
it's leading to stronger addictions.
Yeah,
This thing called fentanyl that's out there now is killing people by the droves. But let's keep it in its place though, because alcohol is still the number one,
yeah.
you know, a killer with car crashes and all that stuff. But
hmm
fentanyl right now, people are it's in everything. It's in heroin, it's in cocaine, it's in methamphetamine, it's even in marijuana.
Yeah,
Uh, so know your sources. If you're going to indulge in something, know your source, because if you get a little piece of fentanyl that wasn't ground up quite strong enough, thin enough, it'll just kill you like the
yeah,
snap of the fingers. And if somebody doesn't have Narcan around, which is um, a medication that'll actually block the receptor sites and take you out of that um, overdose, uh, you could just be gone. So it's very scary, right?
it's always good to. You can get Narcan now. I believe you can get it over the counter, and
Yeah,
it's always good if you know that you're going to be going to a party, and you know that there might be possible druggies at that party, and you know that you're going to be there for a while. Take a thing of Narcan with you. You
yeah,
know, I mean, save a life. Now, I mean, here's the thing: if maybe they've been shot with it 3 or 4 or 5 times, um, I I believe that everybody has a reason to live,
hmm
and everybody sooner or later will be like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm done being shot with Narcan. Like I've had enough. But yeah, if you know that you're going to a party or a function and you know that it's not going to be there, um, I would suggest taking Narcan with you, or
Yeah.
even when you call 911 or the police, that they'll have it with them. But I would suggest simply because being on the front line, so to speak, you're going to be able to give it to them quicker than any EMS or police
Exactly.
department will be able
So
to do.
the cool thing about Minnesota too is we have what's called a Good Samaritan law. I know a lot of places do, but in Minnesota, if you call and you're like at a drug party, literally the paramedics and first responders are there to handle that emergency situation.
Mm,
You cannot get in trouble, and they won't even look around. I've had clients that were like, "Yeah, I called and they didn't look at anything. They, you know, attended to the person that was, needing the care,
yeah,
and then they left. After that, you don't probably want to like hang around there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the
I mean, I
reality is
wouldn't. No.
you you won't get charged. They won't put anything like that in it. So, especially in Minnesota, it's like do just call. Just call
Yeah,
the emergency. If you have Narcan, it can save a life. Um, and it's just you don't want to have the additional trauma of I could have saved somebody life
yeah,
just by making a simple phone call, having that, and it's super easy to use. It's like you can get a nasal spray. Literally, you put it in
yep,
a nostril, do that, and it'll revive them.
yeah,
It's this, and the thing is if they don't need it, if it's something else, it's not going to harm them.
yeah,
It's not going to do any damage to a person to have had Narcan. So it's really it's a no brainer.
hmm I
But
agree. Yeah, I mean, it's like, and just let them know, hey, I did it to help you out. Because
yeah,
here's the thing: if maybe you were in their shoes at one time, you know,
yeah,
maybe you were that person that was laying there foaming at the mouth because you're overdosing.
yeah,
I mean, I've been there. I had to have my stomach pumped numerous times because of alcohol poisoning.
yeah,
Because that was my that was my way of ending my life, so to speak. You know,
yeah,
and the hospital pumped my stomach. And they told me, hey, we did it because we saw what you were going through. So never be afraid to help somebody out in that aspect. Of
yeah,
course, if you can help them out prior to that, but by letting them see that, hey, what you're doing is not the best thing in life.
yeah,
Especially if you know them, then that's a different story. Um, but you never want to pressure. And I'm gonna say this to everybody: never pressure somebody who's dealing with addiction to get help. Because when you pressure somebody who's dealing with addiction to get help, they have that fight or flight mentality.
yeah,
Right? Um, so if you ask once and they say no, they're fine. Maybe wait, but
yeah,
never pressure that person into to getting the help that they need or that you think that they need. You
yeah.
know,
And
uh,
the reality is, we do need to set boundaries.
yeah,
We set boundaries. Hey, I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to give you this.
yep,
But if you want help, I will be willing to help you out. Get into treatment, get the care
mm-hmm,
you need. But I'm not going to give you money, do things like that. But we let it be an invitation. It's like you let me know. I'll check in on you from time to time, but we can't. You know, maybe if you're using, we can't meet up person to person. But I'm happy to talk to you over the phone.
yeah,
Like simple boundary things. Because we once again we don't want to enable somebody's use, because that's makes it harder and harder for them to you know get the help they need, because
Yep.
Unfortunately, for some people, they require consequences for their actions to actually change.
Yeah.
So, we don't want to push them to that, but we also don't want to coddle them. And, it's more loving to actually let them face consequences, a little
Hmm.
hurt, than to actually experience harm. I
Yeah.
always differentiate the idea between hurt and harm. We're
To,
always going to hurt people. We're human,
yep. But
but
we,
we
we, we
want
won't
to
harm them.
do no harm.
Yep. And that's good. Like you were touching on that because I had a sponsor who this guy, man, to this day, he's somebody that I know that I can call if I'm having a bad day, and he's seen my journey in this life, um, man, and I can tell you, he offered numerous guys, you know, ways of, hey, you're hungry. Guess what? I'll get you a meal. Hey,
Yep.
you're going through detox. Well, guess what? Well, I'll uh, I'll take you to the healing place, and which was a big. It was the healing place was a big recovery center, and it still is in Louisville, Kentucky, where I lived out for 16 years. Now, he was never afraid to take somebody to detox or to the healing place to help them. Um,
Yep.
Now, of course, like you said, you never want to coddle somebody, So, I mean, it's all about how serious you are and you're wanting to change and wanting to recover, um,
Exactly.
because we can and we can recover if we want to, Nobody has to sit there um, with a needle in the arm, you know. No,
Hmm.
no matter how bad their life is, life might suck, you know. And I can tell you, my life hasn't been the easiest, but again, that's been because of my own self, um but I'm a better person than I am today because I made the changes I need to, you know.
And that's one of those things too. It's like, so here's the thing: is like, yeah, everybody struggles,
Hmm.
but the addict, the person dealing with mental health issues, the person that actually takes steps to address those issues will have such a higher ceiling potential, um, because they're willing to do the work to make themselves continually a better person than a lot of the general public out there. So some of the best people I know are people that are in recovery, that have gone through a difficult journey in life, because they've learned to work on themselves and to always be moving forward in life, because then now they've learned how to constantly improve and better themselves, and in
Hmm.
doing so they've increased their potential as just a person, whether it be promotions at work, whether it be relational health, whether it be every area of their life. They're growing so much that it seems like, wow, they're being blessed in so many areas of their life because they've put in the work and they've made their ceiling be this high, where
Yeah.
somebody else's may be just this high, because they, the general person just kind of lives life and does what they do, go out with their friends, blah blah
Hmm.
blah blah, and you just kind of live that steady life. But
Well, and it's also, you're talking about work, there's also an old saying, faith without works is dead.
is
you
dead.
know you have to have the faith that you can change. But the thing is, if you don't put the time and the effort into
Yeah.
changing, and this is like in anything in general,
Yeah.
um, if you don't put that time and effort in, then things they'll change, but they won't change.
Hmm.
Um, it's like the boy who cried wolf. You know,
Yeah.
it's if you can cry wolf for only so many times to people are be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's just Mark over there, you know, being the woe is me crying wolf,
Hmm.
saying saying that he's making the changes that he needs to, but it's believing and taking the necessary steps to make the changes are are one thing that I could tell anybody out there. It doesn't matter what you're dealing with. You know, if you
Yeah.
hate your job, you know, but you have faith that things can get better as long as you take the steps necessary to make those things better. Then your
Yeah.
job will get better. You know, and that's just how life is. So, is there anything else like this time of year that you can just offer people that hey, it's no matter what you're going through, uh, reach out. Like what's because we
Yeah.
are coming up on almost an hour. What's something that you could tell people like a positive word of encouragement to be like, hey, if you need this, reach out or anything like that.
Yeah. It's a couple of things. First of all, is that connection. Stay connected with people that are meaningful to you and that build you up. Because
Yeah.
just having that constant connection will feel more cared about as a person, which gives us more resiliency. The other thing is gratitude. Having a sense of gratitude uh, and I just watched a TED talk recently about gratitude. With Thanksgiving just having been passed recently, we talked about gratitude in my groups, and you know, having gratitude is like, yeah, we do a lot of work digging up these holes and digging out these roots and dealing with stuff, but gratitude is like filling it back up with good soil and
Yeah.
good seed, um, because we don't want to just do the hard work. We also need to have that gratitude work, that positivity, so being positive, having a grateful heart, find the things that we're grateful for. Even the small things, it changes the way we think about things, and then we're less of a grouch. We're more patient with others. The things that used to set us off don't set us off. It's like, having a fuse that's like this big, and the gratitude makes the fuse this big, so
Mm.
that you can actually have enough space to like, okay, whew, that was difficult. I was able
Yeah.
to snip the fuse before the bomb blew up. Gratitude is such an amazing, amazing uh, thing that it just serves us well. And that's the lesson that, like I said, my struggle has been with like having kind of the darkness and death, kind of throughout my life. The past
Mm-hmm.
few years was tough for me. My father passed, just over 3 years ago.
Mm.
And so, at that point, you know, having my last parent be gone is like it threw me for a loop. Even somebody that has taught on grief and loss, it threw me for a loop, and I
Yeah.
had to regain my sense of gratitude before I could really crawl out of that hole. So yeah, the gratitude is such an important piece.
Man, that's yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a good thing because a lot of this time of year, we tend to forget things that we're grateful for. You know,
Yeah,
but the things I'm grateful for are the small things in life. I
yeah,
mean, like I'm grateful that people believed in me enough to stand behind my purpose, which is this
yeah,
podcast. I didn't think over a year ago that I would still be here doing this podcast.
yeah,
Um, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, gratitude is be grateful for the small things.
yeah.
Because it's the small things that lead to big things. You know, but I appreciate you coming on, man. We could talk all night long. Uh,
Exactly.
you know, but it is like I said, it's going on an hour, and I'm sure you probably just got home from work, so you're probably ready to eat dinner and wind down for the evening. But
Yeah,
I love to have you back on here in the near future.
yeah,
Because you have some insightful things to share. And if anybody out there um, is wants to talk to Jason, reach out to Jason on Facebook.
yeah.
Um, he doesn't bite. All right. Um, even though he might cry because he likes Les Miserables, it's okay. All right.
Yep.
But yeah, reach out to him. Reach out to me because I would rather see anybody who's hurting or going through any struggle. I'd rather see you above ground instead of 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Well,
Last piece of feedback is
yeah,
just feel your feelings. Know that they won't last forever. So
yeah,
when they're sad, be sad and
yeah,
just let it let it let it soak in you. It's okay to be sad. We don't
yeah,
need to be happy all the time. But when the sadness is over, move on to the happiness again.
yeah. Don't let the sadness of whatever's going on in your life overtake
Yeah.
whatever's good in your life either. I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna kick you to the back and wrap up the podcast, but I'll be with you here shortly.
Sounds good.
I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you much.
All right. Well, that's it, guys and girls. That's another awesome episode of Shape the Podcast. Again, when this airs on Friday night, this is a pre-taped episode. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Man, what's some great insight. Um, in 2 weeks, join me for another great episode of Shape the Podcast, where I will have the beneficiary of the Hold Fast, the $5. Again, I don't want to plug it, but I got to plug it, and I'm going to plug it every single podcast. All right, Lucky Boy Beard Co. Shape the Podcast, Hold Fast. Again, $5 of that is going to be going to mental health based charity. And like I said, 2 weeks, that charity will be on the podcast to tell their story. Well, have a great night, everybody. Again, if you need to talk, reach out, talk to somebody.